Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to be taking a look at my first set of vehicles from the War Thunder Update 1.85 development server, these being the British. Now of course we do have the Challenger 1 Mark III and the Shot Cowdallet Centurion, which we will be looking at a bit later on in the video. But to start off, I'm going to be showing you guys what is my personal favourite vehicle of this entire update. That is the Gloucester Javelin FAW Mark IX. Now this vehicle is a tier 6, and to be fair it does lag behind the other two tier 6 vehicles in performance. But you know what? I still do not mind. The rating is obviously going to be far lower, and this will likely be facing current 9.0s fairly efficiently actually, and when you look at the stats you can see why. This thing has a top speed of 710 miles per hour, or 1,140 kilometers per hour at sea level, so not too far off of current tier 5's aircraft, to be perfectly honest. The missiles you can see me holding are actually 4 de Havilland fire streaks, which, if you know your British aircraft history, you will actually know these missiles were also used on the English Electric Lightning, which is a very well-known aircraft, as well as them also being used, funnily enough, on the Saunders Roe SR-53, which never did go into service, but it was a very interesting aircraft, which I'm sure I will make a video on in the near future. But anyway, back to the Javelin. So this aircraft is not supersonic, but it is actually, at least from testing on my live stream yesterday on the dev server, this seems to be the most maneuverable of all the tier 6s. It's a rather maneuverable aircraft, and up until low speeds, it is an incredibly maneuverable aircraft. It is easy to see why, at least with the roll of the aircraft. If you look on the wings where the ailerons are, there is a ton of vortex generators, and of course vortex generators on the wing, they re-energize the airflow, and that will give the ailerons effectively more aerodynamic effect. So we're going to fire our first missile. There goes the fire streak, and it hits the Lancaster, ripping it to shreds. And it is interesting, you can actually target bomber aircraft. But it is very interesting the way they've done the thermodynamic infrared sort of sensing with these missiles, because larger bombers, even with piston engines, of course, emit more heat from the engines because they have more engines, and they can target from a fairly long distance. For example, there's a Spitfire. There's a few Spitfires flying around, and they're very difficult to target on. Most likely because they have a single engine, they're a lot smaller aircraft, so it's a bit more difficult, and you need to get real close to actually target one of them. But anyway, diving back down, I'm going to see if we can take out another target. We're going to try and aim up on the Lancasters again, see if we can do that. We are coming from above, so the heat might not be in the best position. Let's see, and as you can see it is flashing. If you don't already know, the way the missiles work is effectively you set a button for locking, and there we go, that's another kill. But yeah, what you do is you set a button for locking the missiles on. You will get that sort of aiming reticle come up. It'll flash, you aim it over the target, and effectively, if it senses a heat signature within that circle, it will go red. You fire the missile, and that's what it's going to go for. So that is rather interesting. And doing testing on my live stream yesterday, we did come to the conclusion that you can avoid them by turning off your engines, because then obviously you're not releasing any heat, and it's going to be very difficult for the infrared missile to actually track something that isn't emitting any heat. And also by flying into the sun, you will actually, well, not literally into the sun, but flying towards the sun will help with that, because the sun is effectively masking some of the heat from your aircraft. Now here we have some more Lancasters. We're going to move back in, see if we can get another pass on them. We are coming from in front, so the heat is not the best. Did get a kill though there with the 4 30mm Aidens, which are the same guns as mounted on the Hunter. These guns are fairly powerful, to be perfectly honest. Very good guns, I would say. The only issue is they're mounted quite far on the wings, so there is a lot of weapon spread, which can be difficult for small targets like enemy fighters. But if you can sort of get your optimum shooting range, it's going to be fairly easy to actually destroy targets. But there's the Spitfires, so I'm trying to aim up on them. They are very small, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to get up close, slow right off, and as you're about to see, with small targets in close proximity to each other, the missiles are actually very powerful, and you can destroy 2 targets with a single missile, which is definitely very fun. And there we go, that's 2 Spitfires down with only 1 fire streak, so very efficient there with the weapon usage. Diving back down on top of this Lancaster, my Aidens are currently out, fire the missile, and the missile guns underneath them. Now, I think the reason for that is I was fairly close, and it didn't really give the missile time to adjust to actually hit it. So you know, after testing, a lot of people were saying things like, oh, the missiles are going to be overpowered, they're going to kill everything. This is not the case. Missiles, I would say possibly, are worse than guns. Yes, they're quick, but you can dodge them incredibly easily. For example, me and a friend of mine were on live stream yesterday on the dev server. He was going in F-86 Sabres, the F2 and the A5, and you know what? He could easily outmaneuver the missile. I'd fire a missile. If he pulled up even a little bit, it would miss him. So missiles, surprisingly unoverpowered. But now I am going for the final target, the Lancaster, once my guns are reloaded, which they have. So I'm getting in. You don't need to put too much lead on these, as the gun velocity is very high. So it's fairly easy to just kill things with. And there we go, his wing's gone. It's highly unlikely he's going to be surviving that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump ahead, as I'm sure you guys don't want to see a 3 or 4 minute trek back to the airfield. So I'm just going to jump ahead here to when I'm beginning to make my landing preparations. And I will show you a slight thing this aircraft has that could lead to you basically crashing in-game. Now, the thing that is the stall speed. With this aircraft, as you can see, all of the lifting surface is near the back of the aircraft. It flies very well and it's very maneuverable above its stall speed. But as soon as you hit that stall speed, the front of the aircraft, the nose section, it just falls. You will dive. So what you want to do is on landing, keep the speed high. I would advise, if you're using miles an hour, keep it between about 180 and 160 miles per hour. That way, it's very unlikely, effectively, that you are going to stall the aircraft. As you can see here, I'm descending and I'm struggling to pull up. It's rather difficult. Now, I have actually got the missiles on. The missiles reloaded, so that is one thing weighing me down. But you do need to be very careful with this aircraft not to stall it. Because, as you know, it is a big, heavy aircraft, and if you stall it into the ground, it's highly likely your gear is going to break. I almost stalled it into the ground in this test flight, and, you know, luckily enough, the gear did save me. It was fairly rigid, which is good. And the Javelin itself is a fairly tough aircraft. Definitely something that I'm personally looking forward to flying in-game. It can take a few hits. If you saw my stream, you'll know it can take a few hits, and it is a fairly rugged thing. But yeah, and hopefully we'll be facing top-tier jets with air-to-air missiles, which, you know, when you get those engagements with other fighters where they're just running away, you can just use the missile, and that will be fairly effective. And as you can see there, a bit of a bumpy landing, but I was able to get it down on the ground. But anyway, that was the Gloucester Javelin, the first Tier 6 aircraft for the British tech tree. Very exciting stuff, and you know what? I really cannot wait until we get the Lightning or some kind of supersonic British aircraft. This is amazing. I love this aircraft. In my opinion, it's one of the nicest looking aircraft in the game, and definitely one of the things I'm most hyped for this update. Now, talking of hype for this update, the next thing is, of course, the Challenger 1 Mark III, which has been wanted for a while. It's fair to say that for a while, the current Challenger 1 Mark II in-game has been underperforming. And this aims to sort of fix that problem. So let's get down to this. What have they done to improve the Challenger? Now, when it comes down to it, this is a Challenger 1 Mark II. This is exactly the same as the one in the tech tree. Even most of the mods are the same, the shells are the same, the gun is the same. No difference there, which is a bit annoying because the gun does sort of underperform. You could have a far better gun that would be equivalent to that of the Rheinmetall cannons on the Leopard 2. But the problem is, the shells aren't very good. Now, other than that, though, what is a positive of this vehicle? Well, you have got a lot more armor. You've got steel side plates, or steel blocks, similar to that on the Centurion AVRE, or positioned on the side of the tank, as well as ERA on the front, and various types of metal that just really bump up the armor. And that does help a little bit. It gives you more protection, which, you know, in-game could give you a second chance if you're hit, which is definitely good. Now, as you can see here, though, I am actually doing fairly well with this vehicle. One issue with the Challenger always is when you try to aim backwards, your gun cannot depress. That is rather annoying. But, you know, if you can turn your chassis around a bit, you will be able to shoot fairly easily. Now, this Challenger, though, is, for one thing, you can definitely see how the front of the chassis is reminiscent of that of the Challenger 2. Definitely a very similar design. And you know what? It's only been a few minutes, and we've already taken out pretty much the entire group of enemy lined-up vehicles, and they're all dead. So there's the Challenger 1 Mark III. Very interesting vehicle. I certainly look forward to testing it out on the live server and seeing how it actually performs. Now, talking of something that I'm really excited to test out, This is in fact the Centurion Shotcal Dalet. This is a Israeli version of the Centurion main battle tank, obviously built by the British, and is the brand new British Tier 5 premium vehicle. As I said in my devlog video for this, I am extremely happy they did not add an Australian Leopard. They've actually added a British vehicle that's been modified by a foreign country, and in my opinion has made it even better. In this vehicle, you have a ton of smoke grenades. You have the initial smoke grenade launchers, and then you have a mortar launcher on top of the turret, which also fires some smoke grenades after that. In terms of machine guns, you definitely do not have a shortage of them. You have a 50 cal at the front on the turret, and then you have a group of 30 cal machine guns spread about the turret in various positions. There's another kill. As you may know, this thing can carry APFSDS, Heat FS, and this has an Israeli modified version of the L7 cannon, which, as you know, the gun on the Abrams is also a modified L7, so this definitely will not underperform. The armor is the only thing in question, and this has ERA panels and various other things which also help to bolster up that armor protection to make this a really superior version of the Centurion main battle tank. This is the first pack that I have seen a devlog on in a while where I've straight away said, I need to get that. And I got it straight. I pre-ordered the thing straight away because, you know, mainly because I love Israeli tanks. I love the mods they have, and definitely is something that I'm certainly very hyped to play on the live server. Anyway, though, thanks a lot for watching the video. There'll be more dev server coverage coming very soon with many other nations and supersonic jets, Italian tanks, all that sort of stuff. Thanks a lot for watching the video, though. If you did enjoy, please consider smashing the like button. Maybe even subscribe to the channel. If you do, that would be massively appreciated. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.